Okay, so if you're a business owner, you know that a massive capital expense, like a new roof, can be an absolute budget killer. But what if I told you that by pairing that necessary expense with another project, you could turn that huge liability into a powerful financial asset? I know, it sounds a little too good to be true, but today we're going to break down exactly how it works.
All right, let's start with a big, scary number. This is the all-in cost for a real company, HYDAC, to get a brand new roof and a commercial solar installation. We're talking nearly $1.8 million. I mean, that's a figure that would make any CFO break out in a cold sweat.
But here's the question that changes everything. What if, after all the incentives and credits were tallied up, the final, out-of-pocket cost for that massive project wasn't anywhere close to $1.8 million?
What if it was just over $66,000? The gap between those two numbers seems impossible, right? Well, that's the puzzle we're going to solve right now. Let's dive in and break down exactly how this is done. The answer lies in stacking 4 incredibly powerful layers of financial incentives. We're going to peel them back one by one to see how they combine to just about erase the cost of a major capital improvement.
The first, and honestly the biggest piece of the puzzle, is the federal investment tax credit. Now, the absolutely crucial thing to understand here is that when you do the roof and solar projects together, the tax credit can apply to the entire combined cost. And for businesses in specific areas the government calls energy communities, which by the way includes places like the entire Chicagoland area, there's an extra 10% bonus, bringing the grand total to
A whopping 40%. And let's be crystal clear. This is not a deduction. It's a dollar-for-dollar credit against the taxes you owe. It is a direct, powerful, one-to-one reduction of your company's tax bill.
Okay, next up is depreciation. Now, I know, businesses depreciate assets all the time, but a recent change in the law has made this an incredibly powerful tool for projects just like this.
And here's where that recent change becomes a total game changer. The law now allows you to take a tax deduction for 100% of the project's value in the very first year. You know, this used to be capped at 60%, so this change provides a massive, immediate tax shield, drastically reducing your tax burden right away, instead of having to spread it out over decades.
So the third layer isn't a tax benefit at all. It's straight up cash. States like Illinois have these programs called Solar Renewable Energy Credits, or SRECs. The easiest way to think about it is this. For every chunk of clean energy your new panels produce, you earn a credit. You then get to sell that credit, and the state basically guarantees a buyer. In short, you get paid in cash simply for producing clean power. And for a project this size, that means quarterly checks coming in for the first 7 years.
And finally, the fourth layer of savings comes directly from your local power company. Yep, they also offer some pretty significant rebates to get you to do these kinds of energy projects. And just so you know, this isn't the utility company just being generous. They actually fund these rebate programs by adding a small charge to every single customer's monthly bill. So in a way, you are already paying into this fund whether you know it or not. By actually doing a project like this, you're one of the very few who gets to claim that money back. Okay, so those are the 4 layers. And you know, theory is great, but how does it actually pencil out in practice? Let's get back to that HYDAC project we mentioned at the start and see how these numbers stack up in the real world.
So here it is, the final math for the HYDAC project. You start with that big total cost, just over $1.77 million. Then you subtract the total value of all 4 of those incentives we just talked about, which adds up to over $1.7 million. That leaves you with a final net cost of just $66,000. But wait, that's not even the whole story. Look at that last line. In the very first year, the project generates over $63,000 in energy savings. Your savings in year 1 almost completely pay for the entire net cost of the project. It's incredible.
And this chart just brilliantly illustrates how that $1.7 million in savings breaks down. As you can see, the federal tax credit is the biggest slice of the pie, making up almost 40% of the total savings. But those SRECs are a huge contributor too, and so is that bonus depreciation. You know, each piece is significant, but it's the power of stacking them all together that makes these unbelievable numbers possible.
Now, right about now, you're probably thinking exactly what the owner of this company, Class Distributing, thought. This just sounds too good to be true. But here's his actual quote, a year and a half after his project was finished. He confirms he never paid a dime for anything and got over $2 million worth of solar equipment on the roof. This isn't some hypothetical spreadsheet, it's a real-world result.
So if the numbers are real, what about the practical side of things? What about the upfront cash? How does a project like this actually get off the ground?
This is a really critical point. There is 100% project funding available, and a lot of the time it comes directly from the power company. This means there is no initial capital outlay. You don't write a big check. In fact, you don't make any payments at all until the entire system is installed, turned on, and actively saving you money.
And the process itself? It's surprisingly straightforward. It literally starts with something as simple as a copy of your power bill. From there, it moves to financial and utility approval. But I want you to pay close attention to step 3, that utility interconnection approval. This step alone can take 10 to 16 weeks. Why? Because the utilities are getting absolutely swamped with applications for projects just like this, and it's creating a real bottleneck. That's why starting the process sooner rather than later is just so important.
And that bottleneck isn't the only reason for urgency. See, this unique combination of historically high incentives, well, it's not going to be around forever. There is a very firm deadline approaching. So here is the crucial deadline you need to be aware of. To guarantee you get the full 40% tax credit, your project needs to be what's called safe harbored before July 4th, 2026. All that really means is that you have to have officially started the project. Think of it as having a signed contract and some materials on order. The project itself can be completed much later, even into 2027, but you have to lock in your spot before that 2026 date to secure these historic rates.
Which brings us to our final thought. Every business with an aging roof sees it for what it is, a looming liability, a massive expense just waiting to hit the books. But, as we've seen today, by thinking strategically and timing it right, that exact same liability could be transformed into your company's next great financial asset.